What's good, people in the world today? It's Rob Mega here, and today I bring to you this week's episode of Star Atlas Chatter number 3. And I've titled it, The Only Constant in Life is Change, buddy, because this week we had a lot of change. As you see here, I have the Cope Pierce F4, Council of Peace. It's a cop ship. So we're going to talk on it a little bit later, but basically the reason why it was on the tips of a lot of people's tongues this week was because we had the version 2 refresh of all the ships. So what we had before in version 1, just throw that out the window. We have a new fresh version 2. So all of the ship modules and components, pretty much all of it was changed. And the next change, we're going to now get the information on the interiors. That was lacking in this change. So we're going to see what ships' interiors have as well. So we'll be able to judge a little bit better. But a lot of people were caught off guard with this Pierce X4 because the way the description was previously is totally changed. Okay, and like I said, we'll touch on it. But if this is your first episode with Star Atlas Chatter, just to give you a brief description, what I do here is I lurk throughout the week in the Star Atlas Discord. I listen to the town halls, Atlas brews, and more, trying to pluck out that sweet, sweet alpha to make sure that you stay up to date and informed as you build your Star Atlas empire. Everything in this series is going to be based on the perspective of play and earn and economics and things like that. So another thing, we don't waste time here. So empire builders, let's jump right on into it. So the first question we had, and was answered by Chipto, will the mining ships also have refineries? So Chipto says, Imp Capital and the Medium Tap currently plan to have onboard refining facilities, but they won't be usable yet in REC. Armstrong will just have the mining bonus. So they're still going to be, the mining ships are still going to be OP. I say it in a fun way. They're not OP, there's balance there, but they're very legit in this next iteration of REC right here. I don't have a mining ship yet, but I'm definitely considering it. And I love this one right here. So Bunthius gives us a vision, a look inside of the day in the life of a data runner. So he gives a very lengthy description here. So he says, ultimately scanning results in a ZKP physical unit. I have no idea what a ZKP is. Say you go on a deep space where nothing has been scanned yet. You discover a planet with some claims available. This results in a data unit that is stored in your wallet, but it is a zero knowledge proof, so you're the only one who knows its location. There are some public information, so you can sensibly sell it on the market with some general location info, but coupled with real resource value info. The better your scanner, the deeper you can scan into a celestial body, which will also show on the data unit. He goes on, then that unit is stored in your data racks just like cargo to transport faster where transmission wouldn't suffice. Also, thinking a decay value on the survey data because the movement of these bodies will lead out of date navigational data, so recency will also come into play in valuing units, basically time of the essence. Meaning you should have the decision to keep scanning or drop some onto the marketplace at a space station. So this is going to be really interesting as we progress in this gameplay, where you have to decide, be greedy and just keep scanning deeper and deeper, making the value of the data even more valuable to earn more on the market, or, dink and dunk, scan some data, go back to the central space station, put it on the market, go back and forth like that. But that's going to be pretty fun. I look forward to that type of gameplay. Also, he continues, I love the idea of different tiers of data racks being hackable or protected. Say only a tier 4 or 5 data rack could totally prevent hacks, but the others could be pirated and hacked with a hacking skill or device. We've already begun the initial developments of SDUs, survey data units. However, that doesn't necessarily mean a linear progression to full total data running mechanic has been kicked off, but at least the momentum has begun with this first tech. So that's pretty interesting. Next, we have a question, co-op or not so much with this next iteration of REC. And Shula answers, rec gameplay will be independent from each other player-wise. That doesn't mean you can't pair with a friend and coordinate mining ops. Ship modules, hot swappable. All ships, Crypto says, have modules. They will be freely swappable with other modules of the correct class once we release ship customization. He continues, yes, now all of the stuff that is not swappable, like medbay, brig, mess hall, is an interior element. Interior elements are not swappable. So that's real important here, because some of the things that I know I thought would probably be swappable, like modules, things like that, they're now being moved to interiors. So let's take, for example, the Visas O-Pod. The interior is going to be data racks, and those aren't swappable. You know, things like cargo and fuel is swappable. So what I was thinking, because I don't have a O-Pod yet, but I do have an OHM, and I was thinking it has 2 cargo racks and I think 2 fuel. I was thinking about maybe swapping out one of the cargo racks for a data rack. But when you go into the wiki, the lore wiki, there's no swappable data racks. It's going to be the interior of data scanning ships. So key information to understand about what's swappable and what's not. So I definitely wanted to put that in there to make sure we cover it. Another question here, rec, is it going to be finger friendly? So I love this question here. It says, if EV's game loop was move, scan, move, what would be the most common game loop in rec? Michael answers, move, scan, extract, craft, question mark, and then profit. So that's the core loops. What the question mark is, you know, we'll have to find out. I think we get a clue a little bit later, and we'll touch on that. But this next episode of Rec is going to be much more like a game, Michael also says, so it should be a lot more fun as well. It's not just moving from one space to another and scanning. So another, compared to EV, what's the pace of clicks? And Wagner says again, I wouldn't be able to provide an estimate. It's completely different from EV. You're actually exploring to find stuff, not just moving from one grid sector to the next, and separately managing your crafting operations, okay? So the next phase, like we said, from Automata, this game is supposed to be much more fun, feel more like a game. I am definitely looking forward to it. Next, we have V2 ship refresh, which I alluded to a little earlier, and the big topic, the Pierce X4 and the importance of lore. So as we go into it, like I briefly described, people purchased these F4s originally, and from the description, it made it sound like it would be an alternative cargo ship with big weapons. So a lot of people bought into that, and subsequently purchased F4s. Now with the refresh, that has changed. Actually, the cargo units have been taken away, and now it's more focused on like bounty hunting or being that cop of Gallia with brigs for detaining characters and things like that. So that caught a lot of people off guard as well. So what I wanted to touch on here is to make it crystal clear going forward where the Star Atlas team falls on stuff like this, and it is 100% focused on lore. So we touched on it last week. Lore is going to be important. So make sure you get into that lore wiki that they just dropped last week, and make sure you're up to date, at least have a basic knowledge of how things are fitting in the overall Star Atlas universe. And I bring that up because this F4, it was always a Council of Police cop ship with a brig and things like that. So that's how you really wanted to look at it. But with that said, the way the cargo module, it is swappable. So if you purchase this ship, you will be able to swap it out, put some cargo in there, and still kind of have that fantasy of some a weaponized vehicle with some nice cargo as well as you're traversing the Gallia universe. So we have more here with ship firepower. Chipto says ships of the same spec and class have the same effective firepower now. That means C11 tank ships are equal, which a much better foundation. Next, when we finalize hangar space, we will do another pass on firepower such that large vessels with fewer hangars than their competitions get more firepower. So something to think about as well. Trying to read their mind going forward with, what could happen with these ships as they are balancing, what has this module, what has that, what has more hangars. So if this one has more hangars, then it's going to have less extra hard points and things like that. So some good intel there. Next, we have the impromptu Friday Q&A with Michael Wagner, the CEO of Star Atlas, that just happened yesterday. It was a lot of good nuggets in there. It was a lengthy show, so if you have time, definitely want to listen to the whole thing. But some of the tidbits, things that perk my ears up, we'll go into now. First off, what we know as player profiles, they're changing the name to Star Atlas accounts. And even that may change again, but basically a comprehensive hierarchy of accounts, characters, names, and DAX systems. Basically, everything we knew about player accounts, they're now calling Star Atlas accounts. So, Star Atlas accounts will be in rec. So when he first said that, I'm like, whoa, so that means player progression. Not so fast. Later on, he did say in the Q&A that we won't have player progression just yet. So we'll have to wait on that. That will truly be a game changer once we have player progression, because then everything is real. Everything is real at that point. But we have some more. This is still going to be cool, this next iteration of rec. So we have here what the rec gameplay is going to be like. And Michael goes in depth to really give us a feel for what we're looking at here. So we will all start at a star base where we'll configure our fleets, use all of the real ships in our inventory. We'll have full freedom to explore the entire map of Gallia. You will be able to mine any asteroid you come across. However, be careful and make sure you take note of your fuel and your food consumption. It's conceivable that you could run out of fuel and become stranded in space. So, next question. What happens if you run out of fuel? And this is cool. If you do run out of fuel and are stranded in Gallia, you will need to hail a ship to come refuel you. What's awesome is you will have to put out a rescue beacon, and then another player will have to go ahead and respond, come to your rescue, and give you some more fuel. So it's all player driven, which I really didn't know that was already coming in this first iteration of rec. So we're getting a lot in this next update, and I can't wait for it to get released. So we go into more calling all risk takers. Okay, so this is another important snippet from Michael here. He says the items crafted and loot collected will not reset, and there will be no combat in rec. Not only can you explore medium risk zones, but you can traverse enemy faction lines as well. But you will not have access to any star bases to store inventory or resupply your ships. So venture with caution. Resetting via SOS will force you to drop all items gathered should you run out of fuel. So if you run out of fuel and you have to put out a rescue beacon, you're going to lose all of the resources that you collected. You won't lose your loot, and I have some more snippets here talking about that. You won't lose your loot, but you will lose your R4s. So that's something to think about. Also, in the same context here, it says that we don't have combat in this first iteration of rec. So this is the time to be a little bit more riskier, perhaps, to go out to medium risk zones, other factions areas and around their star bases and things, mining resources, seeing what you can find, and then trying to hightail it back, making sure you have enough fuel to go back to your space station so you can drop that stuff off and then craft and so forth. So it's key here. You won't be able to go to another faction star base and drop off your resources and crafting. You still got to go all the way back to where you are. So keep that in mind. So some more alpha here, and this is interesting. Michael says, loot isn't dropped, just resources, which go into crafting, and there is a loot table associated with crafted items, alpha. So once again, we have our resources, we go to our star base, and we craft an item. Is he saying once we craft an item, some component, that there's a chance of maybe some other loot dropping, or an extra component? I don't know. So tell me in the comments what you think. But that's going to be very interesting. But I do like where they're going with that. That right there is nothing but good news right there. Something's positive going to come out of that question mark we have right now. So Shula gives us more about what happens to the resources that are lost if you have to have an SOS, somebody come out and pick you up or refuel you out in space. He says it's going to be burned for now. Might change if we have engineering time to implement as simplified looting system, but I really doubt it. So basically, it's going to be burned, which is cool. There's there's a little more risk, makes it feel realistic, makes you think, hey, do I have enough fuel? There's some calculations that you have to make. So I do like that. It's making it more real. That feels more fun to me. Okay, so the core game loop, like we just discussed, is extract resources, bring to your star base, craft components, maybe some loot drops too, and then repeat. And then finally, as we close the latest on ship components and crafting, as far as what we know now from Michael Wagner, I just wanted to drop this in here. Okay, so components will be redeemable in Rec, or you can save them and use them in future versions of the game. Also, components will also be tradable. So this is going to be really, really cool. Michael also added during the AMA, and I'm summarizing, you craft a frame. This is just an example of how the crafting is going to work. You craft a framework component and then use that framework to craft another blueprint, which could be used in a star base, for example. So you craft one component, that component is used in another component, and then the process continues until you can put it into something or in a ship and so forth. And we will be able to trade these. So that's pretty cool. He also talked about the future Gen 2 crafting. So Michael said that in the future, we will be able to craft Gen 2 ships, but we won't be able to craft any of the current ships in the marketplace now, along with basically anything that's available for sale now. So, for example, me personally, I was thinking the reason why I haven't got an O-Pod yet is, maybe in the future, I was like, I figure I'll just go ahead. If I don't get one now, that'll probably be the first ship. I'll try to get the blueprint and then craft it in game. But now with this information, I'm going to have to go ahead and get one eventually before these origin ships all run out or get very, very scarce. Right now, there's great discounts on all the ships and things like that. So I'll probably pull the trigger probably before the next episode of Star Atlas Chatter. I probably will be a proud owner of an O-Pod. But definitely wanted to put that in there for your information. Well, that concludes this week. I'll see you next week, Empire Builders. Take care. Mega out. Go to Bowie.